you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
all in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years, Raymond
The sickest NHL podcast. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network. Happy Friday. Tons of Stanley Cup playoff hockey coming up tonight after a 2-game slate. We're back to 4 tonight. Pierre McGuire right there with me. I am Jimmy Murphy. And Pierre, you are down in Hoboken, New Jersey, home of Frank Sinatra. And you were just saying as we're coming on, are they filming a movie?
They are. They're filming a movie. There are lots of old cars here on Washington Avenue in downtown Hoboken. And I'm not far from where Elysian Field was, where they actually played Major League Baseball. So, yeah, just about 2 blocks to my left. So pretty cool place to be right now. Just here for a family event and then heading back to Canada on Sunday. But, Jimmy, you know what's interesting? We call the show the Eye Test.
Yes.
The Eye Test won last night in the Florida versus Tampa game because Nick Cousins, Steven Lorentz, and Kyle Oposo. And Oposo hasn't played a playoff game since probably 2015 or 2016 when he was in Buffalo.
Yep.
Think about it, okay? Think about it, just so you know. Those guys influenced the outcome of the game.
They did. And I think it was huge, Pierre, considering some of the guy that Florida was missing and Sam Bennett. They needed those character guys to stand up and deliver last night, and they did. And look, I also give Paul Maurice some great credit there too, because, you know, for him I'm sure he emphasized, guys, we need everybody on deck here. We know we've been getting the contributions from the guys we depend on, the stars, the Kachucks, what have you, but we need you guys to step up now too. So I totally agree with you there, Pierre. And on the flip side, Tampa needs that too, and they're not getting it. They're not getting it at all.
Well, they're not the same team, but just a couple more guys in Florida. Kevin Stenlund on the penalty kill was phenomenal. This is where, you look at what's gone on there. You got to give a lot of credit where credit's due. You talked about Paul Maurice, and I completely agree. Jamie Compon, who's been his longtime trusted assistant, a Stanley Cup winner in Chicago, he deserves a lot of credit. Sylvain Lefebvre, who's done a phenomenal job really retooling that defense in Florida. And by the way, Jimmy, Brandon Montour scores, obviously some big goals for Florida over the course of the year and in this playoff series. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent, Jimmy.
Yeah.
What is he going to get on the market?
Well, does he reach the market?
Oh, he's going to reach the market. He's going to market. He's going to market, Jimmy.
Okay. Interesting.
I'm going to say right now that guy's coming in between $7 to $8 million. And I'm going to bet Matt Cater, his agent, probably wants 7 years, but I'm going to say a team will give him 6.
Okay.
I don't think Cater will get 7. I think he'll get 6, but I think he's going to come in at $7 to $8 million a year.
And you believe firmly he's going to market because of what they have to deal with Reinhart?
Yeah, Reinhart's going to be the biggest thing. And all those guys I just talked about on that fourth line, the depth line, I never like to number lines, so I'm just going to call them the depth players.
I'm with you too. I call it the energy.
Some night your fourth line is your first line, and some night your first line is your fourth line. And I learned that from the great William Scott Bowman because I used to number the lines, and he once gave it to me pretty good. So all I'm going to say is all 3 of those guys, Oposo, Lorentz, and Cousins, they're all UFAs.
Yep.
This is what a lot of teams are going to have to deal with, that especially are going to do well this playoff season. Carolina is going to have 10 UFAs. 10. Yeah.
And don't forget,
not counting their RFAs.
Yes.
10 UFAs.
I know. And the RFAs are even more interesting. Going back to Florida, though, don't forget Tarasenko as well.
He's a UFA.
So I think they knew they're going all in. They want to go for it all right now, and I like that. Hey, look, I covered a team last year that did that. They put everything in to one bucket, and that was it. It didn't work out. Sometimes it doesn't work out. I think it's going to work out at least a little further than it did for the Boston Bruins last year than it will for the Florida Panthers this year. So.
And one more thing on Florida, their American Hockey League team won last night. And Spencer Knight was one of the stars of the game, which is more good news for them, obviously, because goaltending depth matters a lot too. And don't forget they signed Cooper Black, out of Dartmouth as a free agent. So tons of goalie depth.
Pierre, we don't plan this. All right. I don't script this with Pierre. I want everyone to know this, But one of the questions I was going to bring up to you from one of my friends, because he can't tune in, so he wasn't going to be able to ask questions today, my buddy Brendan in Detroit, he wanted me to ask you if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs in the off season, do you inquire with the Florida Panthers about Spencer Knight?
I would. I've known Spencer a long time.
You have.
And I really respect him, and I know there were some issues, and he's had to go deal with those.
What he's been through.
And he's been through a lot, and a lot of it's brought on by himself. I think he'd be the first person to admit that.
But he's done what he had to correct
it.
He's
done his chores. He's done his chores, and he's paid the toll. And that's why I brought it up, just because it shows you the internal depth of what they've built down there, Billy Zito and his group, and they've built a lot of good stuff there.
And if I'm not mistaken, Pierre, and I forgive me for not knowing the name, I just remember seeing it because of our buddy George Richards from Florida Hockey Now, who we've had on this podcast.
Yes.
I think like a month ago. Didn't they sign a European goalie, a Finnish guy as well?
They may have, and I'm remiss on that. And
okay,
if they did,
I'll double check that.
We'll get back on that.
Yeah, but I think some other depth. They've got depth for sure.
Yeah, no, they definitely do. But it speaks to, you talked about Tampa. Tampa had amazing internal infrastructure and depth. They did. And
that's why they had that run.
As you go to the final 3 years in a row, and guys start to think they're worth more than they really are, but it doesn't matter. Their worth is what the market will pay them. Yep. So Blake Coleman's in Calgary, and Barclay Goodrow's in New York, and Yanni Gord's in Seattle, Ryan McDonough's in Nashville. So you start looking at, I'm going to blame me. I'm not going to blame you. I'm going to blame me on this. We don't talk about Sergachev enough, and that's on me.
No, you're right. No, that's on me too. That's on me.
That power play wasn't good last night, and it hasn't been good for most of this series. Yeah. Sergachev's a big part of that.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to blame myself on that. I should have brought that up before. Yeah, because I'm watching them play, and this is not a knock on any of their young kids. They're all good players. They are.
It's a compliment to Sergachev.
They're not Sergachev.
Yeah,
they're not.
Mm-hmm.
So injuries matter. You correctly say, you talk about Sam Bennett. I get that too. It's a good point. They have enough depth that they can overcome. Now, not for a long stretch, but for a small sample size, they got enough depth they can overcome. We saw it last night. Kachuk goes to another level. Stenlund goes to another level. Lorentz comes, off the bench, and he goes to another level. Opolso, who hasn't played a playoff game in forever, comes off and looks relatively comfortable in that game. Nick Cousins plays a huge game. They have enough depth. Tampa does not, and it's what we talked about before. It's cap related, it's championship related, and it's the way it is in the league. You just can't have teams' rosters stay together 5 to 7 years. It just doesn't happen anymore.
Cycle. It is what it is. That's the cap league. Pierre, I want to talk about John Cooper's comments after the game, and I loved his comment. Look, I don't think they're coming back, but you're not going to give up. You're not going to roll over. And he said, anyone who doesn't believe doesn't need to show up. Okay, so at this point of year, Pierre, I think you'll probably agree with me. If you're a coach, there's times you pick your spots over the course of an 82-game season where you single guys out or you call somebody out specifically. He's not going to do that right now in the playoffs. It's just not the time and place. You're down 3-0. What are you going to gain from that, right? But I think he knows when he says that, he knows there's certain people that he's specifically talking to, and they know who he's talking to. And I got to think one of them, Pierre, who, and it's, look, I'm not saying he's not an amazing player. He's had an amazing season. He's going to be a Hart Trophy candidate. But Kucherov was not what he needed to be last night. Let's call a spade a spade.
Well, I'm going to go with what the coach did. And what I'm going to say is I'm not going to speculate on which players he was trying to address and which one he gave a free pass to. I'm not going to do that, because to do that, sometimes people misread situations. Yeah. So I'm not going to go there. But what I'm going to say is maybe the best person in the league when it comes to asset management is John Cooper. I'm not saying he's the best coach, because I don't believe he is. But I do believe he's the best asset manager from that point of view in the league. He knows guys that are going. He knows guys that aren't going. This is to build off your point.
Okay.
He knows when guys need a kick in the butt, and he knows when to back off. He knows when to play 11-7 and when to play 12-6.
Mm-hmm.
He's a really good asset manager. And a big part of selling your game plan is to know which assets need to be sold.
Okay.
He's really good at it, Jimmy. I'm just telling you, he's really, really good at it. I give him full marks for that because I don't think he's the best coach in the NHL. I don't. Tactically, he's not.
No.
But I'm telling you, he's as good an asset manager as they've had in the NHL in a very long time.
And when you say asset manager, you meaning like he feels the pulse.
Yes.
He can adapt.
He knows which guys are going, which guys aren't. He knows when he has to play 11-7. He knows when he has to play 12-6. He knows when a guy can handle 27 minutes and when a guy can only handle 8 minutes. He knows that. He's really good at it. And he knows how to sell a plan. He knows how to sell you on your role, and he knows how to sell a plan. He's really, really good at it.
Okay. Final question on Tampa, and I want to move ahead to that other game last night. One of the big topics now is obviously, and it's going to get even bigger if they lose and they're swept, is Steven Stamkos. Pierre, I'm hearing people already speculating. I'm not going to go there at all. I'm not going to speculate where he might go, what might happen. I'm just going to go back to everything you've told us before, and I'm going to go back to 2018. Just remember that. I want to talk to the people out there. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the people speculating right now, giving them fair warning to my colleagues, I'll say, in the media who are going to write some columns and write some things like that. Just remember 2018. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, no, but Steven was really forthright. I remember having really good discussions with him.
Yep.
And he said, why would I go anywhere else? That negotiation was handled so well by Steven Yzerman, Julian Brisebois for the team, and obviously on the other side of things, Newport Sports Management, led by Donnie Mean and Patrick Morris and Craig Oster. That negotiation was elite from both sides. Now, I'm sure there was some acrimony behind closed doors, but it never, ever seeped into the newspapers.
Yeah.
And it led to all this rampant speculation that he was going to be going to Toronto and it was a done deal. He was seen at the airport. He's already negotiating to do commercials for different Canadian entities.
Yeah.
None of it came true.
Right. And I know it's years later, Pierre, but I think we need to just remember that and not get ahead of ourselves, right?
No, I would agree. So, Jimmy, the one thing I can say, Steven's done very well, obviously, financially. I think everybody knows that. There's something to be said about being a legacy player. You start in one place and you end in one place. There's something to be said for that. And there's sometimes a price that has to be paid to do that. I'm not saying every player wants to do it, but I can tell you the guy that I respect the most from my career wore number 66 in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And he's larger than life in that community, and justifiably so.
Yep.
And the way he carries himself is phenomenal. And he's whomever you think is the largest sports icon in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Mario trumps that person. You can say Willie Stargell. You could say Terry Bradshaw. You could say the late Franco Harris. You go down the line, pick whomever you want. Mario Lemieux trumps all of them.
I know. It's amazing too. By the way, I got to get down there for a game soon, Pierre. Next season, let's make it happen.
We can.
When I'm not working, I want to experience Pittsburgh when I'm not on a work trip with Pierre McGuire. Okay,
it's phenomenal, and this is all. And we had a lot of people watching and listening in Pittsburgh. I still do radio there with the great Mark Madden. Mark Madden is awesome, by the way. He's an icon. He's really, really good. And what I would say is that it's such a treat to be able to go back to Pittsburgh a couple times a year. It's just an amazing sports city. The fans are phenomenal in every sport. And, obviously you still got a really special player there. A bunch of special players. One guy, 87, is pretty special. He's pretty special.
Sidetrack too, Pierre. And I don't know if you checked it out, but I urge you to, if you haven't, on Prime. I think it's a Showtime show, but you can catch it on Amazon Prime. It's called American Russ. It's with Jeff Daniels. Great actor, in my opinion. It's called American Russ, and it's based in Pittsburgh. It goes back and forth between Pittsburgh and a town in West Virginia. But what I loved was constantly, every time they're in a bar or a restaurant, the Penguins are on in the background. And they're always talking Penguins. They're always talking hockey. And it just showed me what an institution that is in the city of Pittsburgh. I thought you'd get a kick out of that.
Well, I do, but I'm going to share this with you, and I hope it's still in business. Scotty and I, once a week when we weren't on the road, we'd always drive to a place in Weirton, West Virginia. I'm not kidding you.
Close, right? Isn't West Virginia really close?
Oh, yeah. West Virginia's right there. But Weirton was about 35 to 40 minutes away from downtown Pittsburgh, where we lived together. And we'd always go to this place in Weirton called DJ's Rib House. I'm not kidding you. We would go.
I just want to go for the name.
If we were on the road, we'd go there at least once every week. And I'm just telling you, Jimmy, to this day, I really like barbecue, but those ribs were as good as anything I've ever eaten. And, I haven't been back there in a long time, but I hope it's still in business. I can tell you, it was so good. It was crazy. It was crazy how good it was.
Good stuff. Yeah. And it's just such a working class town. I love that about it. All right, let's move on, Pierre, to the other one. And I think this series, if I'm not mistaken, Pierre, we can go back to our, playoff preview. And one of the things we agreed on was that the Islanders would be in every game, but it would be a short series. It was going to be one of those series where they could hang, they'll hang in the games, but they just don't have enough to hang in the big picture, so to speak. And that's exactly how it's gone so far, Pierre. I mean, it is what it is. The Islanders just aren't deep enough to hang with the Carolina Hurricanes.
And Patty Roy played a hunch last night.
Patrick
Roy played a hunch, and he went with Sorokin. And you know what? It just didn't work. And you can blame the goal. You can blame Patty. You can do whatever you want. Stuff happens. Carolina is a better team than the Islanders. They're better on paper. They have a better record. They didn't have to stress to get into the playoffs.
Yep.
There's a lot. The Islanders sold their soul to get in. They hit that bust with Derriere to get in the playoffs.
Very much like the Capitals.
I think they had left in the tank.
Yeah.
They probably didn't have a lot of gas left in the tank. So I have full respect for what they were able to pull off. Patty deserves a huge amount of credit. He played a hunch last night. Didn't work.
Yep.
Didn't work.
It happens. It happens. Yep. So I'm interested, though, when we look at that, we look at the big picture here and just we'll get back to the game and the series in a second, but just when you look at the Islanders going forward, because we are getting to that point, maybe depth is the biggest thing I want to see there. I think they're okay between the pipes. I don't think that's an issue it wasn't a great night, but I think overall they're pretty good between the pipes. I think they're solid on D, but I think up front they just need way more depth, and they need more game changers, more guys that can take over a game and really just carry it. And I just don't see that right now with them.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I know one of the reasons why they moved Casey Cizikas from that identity line up to play, with Barzal and Horvat was to try to generate more energy on the forecheck in particular.
Yep.
It worked haphazardly. It really worked down the stretch of the last 10 games. It was good. But you can see where Casey's a specialist. Casey's a guy. How I have my core 7 player profile. He's one of them, but he's a specialist player. Right. He's not a top 2 center iceman. He's not a power forward. He's the specialist forward. That's what Casey Cizikas is. So he fits the profile. But when you're the specialist forward, you can't be playing on the first or second line.
No.
It's just too much. And it takes away from the specialties that he's really good at.
And it takes away from the guys that play around him on the special, the benefit off his specialty. So
Barzal's had a tough series. I think you would agree. Offensively,
well, I'm talking about the guys that are usually used to him being on their line down on
the affected Clutterbuck and Martin.
Exactly. That's
it definitely is affected those guys.
Yep.
So, but no, I mean, Patty's been able to squeeze a lot out of this group in a short time. Look, it's never over till the other team wins 4.
Exactly.
But this one's going to be a deep hole they're in. I mean, this is as deep as any hole, and the other team's just starting to warm up. You can see it. Aho's starting to warm up. Burns is starting to warm up. Gensel's been hot ever since he came over from Pittsburgh. You can look at all of them. They're just starting to go now.
Yeah.
They really are. So
I thought Burns last night was just on another level. 22 minutes and 17 seconds he played there.
Just starting to warm up. And, we don't even – again, I'm going to say, like I said to you about Sergachev, Seth Jarvis. Mm-hmm. He's made as big an impact in this playoffs as any player playing in the playoffs right now in a positive way. He's been really good. Really good.
Pierre, another thing, too, going back to the D, right? So they lose Pesci, right, which is a huge loss. I mean, there's no ifs and buts
D'Angelo
about
went in
that.
and played great. D'Angelo did very well. Played almost 19 minutes, I think, Jimmy, just off the top of my head.
Like, have you check out the minutes across the board on the blue line and how well they did at divvying them up?
Yeah.
It wasn't like usually when you see a guy like Pesci go down of that caliber, right? One or two other guys are going to go way up in minutes. It wasn't that drastic, Pierre. I mean, the leader here was Burns at 22-17, and then you go down and Slavin's at 21-17. You got Brady Skay at 20-26, D'Angelo at 15-45.
Well, he was at 15.
Yeah, so it's like great job of not overtaxing guys despite losing a key guy on your blue line. And Pierre, that goes to what you always love to do, and I love that you do that on our podcast. That goes to the defensive coaches, the assistant coaches, and then doing their job properly and figuring out how to even things off and keep guys fresh.
Yeah, and that was Timmy Gleason that does such a good job. And for those that don't know, Timmy was a player there in Carolina.
Oh, I remember him.
He was a tremendous junior player in the Ontario Hockey League.
Yep.
When you see this, tells me how good a coach he is. Rod Brindamore has got his hands on everything. He really does, which is great. He should. He's an elite. He is an elite coach. But when you watch at the end of a game, Jimmy, when there's a timeout and a defensive zone face-off situation, Brindamore doesn't have the chalkboard.
No.
The chalkboard goes to Tim Gleason, and
Exactly.
Brindamore lets him run his thing. And so that's really smart. Bob Johnson used to do that. Scotty used to do that. You delegate authority. Those guys become experts in their area, and the players believe in them because they know that that's what they study. They're not going to give Gleason the board if you got to score a goal at the end of the game.
No.
That's either going to be in Rod's hands or Jeff Daniels' hands, and probably Rod's.
Yep.
If it's a defensive situation in the offensive zone and the other team calls a timeout, it's probably going to be Jeff Daniels.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. Like all these teams, these guys are specialists. They're really smart at what they do. And the coaches that trust their assistants the most,
thank you.
They do really well.
How much, when you're a player, how much does it mean to see the head coach trust those guys so much? Do you know what I mean? Because I know you're looking at the head coach is the head coach, but when you know that he has enough trust in this guy to lead your part of the team, your portion of the team, whether it's the D or the forwards, he has enough trust. Then I imagine the player, it makes it so much easier to listen to them and say, "Oh, okay, cool." He's the top player.
And it makes the players understand that the coach isn't trying to run everything, that the person actually describing the game situation or the pre-series meetings, those guys are experts. They've actually been told, this is all you're focusing in on. You're doing this series. You're breaking it down. Bob Johnson used to do that with me. Scotty used to allow me to do it on the bench. I mean, and the players respond.
Yeah.
The players do. They respond because they know that's all you've been doing. You haven't been worried about doing press conferences. You haven't been worried about signing guys to contracts. No. You haven't been worried about the equipment stuff. You're not dealing with injuries. That's the trainer's job. Your job is to get the team ready, or your job is to coach the defense, or your job is to do the penalty kill, or your job is to do the power play. And the players respond to that as long as the head coach delegates properly.
Exactly. And Pierre, when we had Trip Tracy on the other day, how many times did he say the name Timmy Gleason? I counted 6.
I thought
it was amazing. I'm like, wow, this guy is really valuable to this team.
He is. Trip did a really good job on our show, by the way. He really did. I thought there was information.
Yeah, he broke it down so well.
I thought the information that he put forth, and the scouting reports that he put forth on some of those players, they were spot on. And that's stuff that you will not hear from normal people in the media because they just don't have that background. It's not a knock on anybody. They don't have that background. Yeah. He really did a good job. Really, really good job.
It was great stuff. And quickly before we move away and we get to these games tonight, Pierre, just more in Carolina too. Freddie Anderson, I'm really loving what I'm seeing there. Bravo to him. And look, we've never said he was a bad goalie by any means. I've been adamant. I think the guy's got a curse over him. He's got a goddamn curse over him.
Yeah,
and he's breaking through right now, and I love to see it.
Good for you, Jimmy. I agree. I remember when he was a kid in Anaheim, and I'd go out there with Eddie Olczyk and Doc and do some big games that he would play in. They couldn't find a way to get over the hump. It wasn't on him. It was just that's where Anaheim was with their team at that point. And Freddie was part of that.
Yep.
And then he goes to Toronto. You want to blame Freddie for Toronto? Come on.
No.
No way.
No
way. They didn't
Freddie
have good enough defense. They didn't have enough character guys.
Exactly.
They just didn't, And now he's in a different situation.
Right.
He looks pretty good to me.
He's looking great. I love it. He's a guy to watch. I mean, I'm telling you, man, Carolina right now, I'm looking across the board, Pierre, and so far, and I'm just saying to this point, I'm not getting ahead of myself, just in terms of everything going on all cylinders, everything sort of panning out the way you want it to right now, it's going well. Of course, it didn't happen. Pesci was a big injury, but the way they were able, now it's gonna eventually affect them. It's gonna, I know that, but the way they immediately adapted, it just shows you the depth. And again, as we just went ad nauseum about the coaching, and that to me is a huge thing. I think right now that's probably one of the best, if not the best, coaching jobs so far through 3 games.
Maurice has done a really good job in Florida. I'll give him credit where credit's due. I think Laviolette's done a nice job. We'll see tonight with the Washington Capitals and the Rangers. Mm-hmm. The guy that's really impressed me, though, I got to tell you, Jimmy, Cassidy in Vegas. To go into Dallas.
Good call. My bad.
No, it's not a bad. But, Jimmy, like to go into Dallas and win 2, and in game 1, they didn't have their A game.
No.
Vegas didn't have their A game. But the coach found a way to keep it on the rails. He did. They did not have it. So I give a lot of credit to Bruce. I think Bruce has coached really well, and I don't know what's going on in this Toronto Boston thing, but maybe because they're about equal size. Maybe Jimmy and Sheldon need to get in the ring and do what MMA stuff.
Okay, Pierre. So we're gonna get to I want to get to the games tonight. Don't worry. Okay. But did you see what Jimmy said about the goaltending today?
No, I did not. I apologize.
We're following the plan that's been set in place.
So that's got a lot of meaning, though, Jimmy.
And he knows what everyone thinks that means, but I'm not so sure it means what everyone thinks it means.
No, maybe they're starting.
He had that smirk. He had that, Jimmy Murphy smirk going there. He had that wry smile, man. I'll tell you.
All I know is they're both good coaches. I think Montgomery has more experience than Sheldon does in bigger games.
Yes.
I know that Keefe won an American Hockey League championship, a Calder Cup, obviously with the Toronto Marlies. But, when you look at it all, I think they got to focus more about the ice now. I know that I know they're having fun playing with the media and creating all this stuff, especially with the Canadian media and all the stuff with Marchand. I understand. I get it. I've been involved in a couple of press conferences.
So
I think it's time to focus on the ice.
Yeah, and we'll move right back to the ice in a second. I just want to get something out there. So there's been a lot of speculation around social media. And a little surprised, but like you said, it's a Toronto media, Sportsnet and TSN ran right with it. Didn't bother asking him what he said. But from what I'm told from one of my trusted team sources is Brad Marchand did not skate by the Toronto bench and say over in 5. Okay? We have been sitting here for the last few days telling you how much Marchand has improved in that respect and not willing to give them bulletin board material, not taunting. We saw what he did from the opening face-off of this series, and he has been very mature about that. And when I saw that, I'm like, I don't think so. And so I kept trying to read the words myself because there's no audio. You just have to kind of look at the words and read what he's, guess what he's saying there. And like I speculated, Pierre, someone confirmed to me that he was saying to his teammates after he got the empty netter, 35 seconds. And he got to the bench and he said, don't let up. He was trying to urge his teammates, the game's not over yet. Let's go. Keep going.
If in fact, I believe your source, by the way.
Yeah.
The source probably said to you, Jimmy, he said, this is over in 35 seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I think people saw this is over.
Right. And they didn't get
35. Yes. Yeah. So I can't speak to it because I didn't see it. Okay. Right. I didn't see it. I'm going by what you're saying and what your source is saying. And I have no reason. I know who your source is. I have no reason to doubt your source. Zero.
Yeah. All right. So let's get that out of the way. I mean, it was like, why would he take a 180 like that after the way he's been through the whole series? So anyhow, all right, let's get to the games tonight, Pierre. Look, another 4-game docket here. You brought up the Rangers and Capitals, obviously do or die, I think, in our eyes for the Capitals right now. The one thing I'll say about this, Pierre, is out of the teams that have gone into a game down 2-0, the Capitals, to me, have the most shot to make it 2-1. Like, I wasn't surprised with what happened last night, to be honest, but the Capitals have hung in these games. Now, I know the Rangers are a way better team, and maybe they just haven't got to the level where they need to go. That's very possible, but I'm going to give the Capitals credit for hanging around.
I'm also going to tell you, I've done a lot of big games in that building in Washington, whether it's a Stanley Cup final, whether it's those big-time Pittsburgh Penguin Washington Capitals series, Montreal Canadiens. I'm going to go all the way back to 2010 playing, and I've done a lot of big games in that building over the course of my career.
Yes.
And not in that building, but in Landover. I coached in a lot of big games in Landover. Those fans are electrifying when the playoffs are on, talking about Capitals fans. And they call it rockin' the red. And they do. And a lot of it is crowd noise. But I would say this. They're one of the best groups in the league at having the sound system working. Mm-hmm. And when you're at ice level, I don't know what it's like in the stands because I've never been in the stands. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you that at ice level, when that music cascades down, it's hard.
You can feel it.
Yeah, it makes things shake. It's much louder than a lot of the other buildings in the league. You combine that with the fans who are electrified, obviously.
And they're smart hockey fans, too.
And they are smart hockey fans. You're darn right they are. So it's a hard building to play in for the visitor. Now, I've seen some, I've obviously seen Pittsburgh going there, and that's a big problem for the Capitals. Pittsburgh, always a problem for the Capitals. But I would just say this, Jimmy, that's not going to be an easy game tonight for the Rangers. It's just not going to be.
No. This is going to be a tough one. I still like the Rangers in a series, but I just don't sense a sweep in this one. I at least think they're
hard game tonight. That's just call it what it is. It's a hard game.
Hard game. All right, let's move ahead, Pierre. The next one, and speaking of hard buildings to play in, and I know you love watching games there and doing games there, Bridgestone Arena in Nashville tonight. Yeah. Get the catfish out. Get the catfish out, Pierre.
Well, there's just so many good things about Nashville. It starts with just what goes on outside the rink. It starts with how passionate their fans are, how enlightened their ownership group is there. I love what Rick Tocchet said, though. He goes, hey, bring the booze on us. That's what it's supposed to be. So Dickey played in Philly when they weren't exactly enamored with around the league.
Yeah.
Also played when not popular, Jimmy. So you get feet, I think.
Yeah, I'm breaking up. Oh, I think we might have lost Pierre for a second. He'll be back in a second. No problem. By the way, before we go on about the conversation about Nashville, want to tell everyone out there, thanks to our producer, Sammy, the place DJ's Barbecue that Pierre mentioned earlier, he said that it is still open. So, Pierre, I was just telling, we got you back?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So I was just telling Sammy just alerted me that DJ's in West Virginia is still open.
In Weirton, West Virginia. Well, that's good. Yeah, they're not a sponsor of the show.
Yep.
But I will tell you right now, if you like ribs and barbecue, go to DJ's, and I promise you will have a tremendous meal.
It is on our trip. Next year, the Sick Podcast, iTest, is making a trip to Pittsburgh, and DJ's is on the agenda. All right, Pierre, back to just start over what you were saying about, you lost your right when you were talking about Rick Tocchet and how it's nothing new to him to be in an environment like he's going to be in tonight.
Yeah, no, he's expecting the team to get booed, and he said, look, we embrace that.
Yeah,
he's lived it as a player. He played in Philadelphia when they were not exactly the most popular guys in the league. He played in Pittsburgh, and I can tell you, we weren't choir boys there, and nobody liked our team. Nobody liked us. It's okay. You get it. Yep. You don't take it. Jimmy, I told you this a long time ago. You work in hockey, people are going to take runs at you. It's okay. Don't take it personal.
Pierre,
Just have a
if you're
penalty.
not,
Just
if
have
you're
a
not
penalty.
taking runs that year, you're probably doing something wrong. That's the way I
Yes,
look.
just you can't take stuff personal. It's okay. People can have their opinion. It works. It's fine. I totally get it. But I would say this: Rick will have the team ready, and they weren't prepared to stop Forsberg, O'Reilly, and Nyquist in Game 2. They were not prepared for it, and Forsberg had a big game. They better be prepared in Game 3 to shut that line down. If they shut that line down, they will win Game 3. If they don't, they probably won't win Game 3.
And by the way, I just checked the weather, Pierre. So it's currently 4:37 Eastern. So I think they're an hour behind us. Is it Central?
Hour behind. They're an hour behind.
37 Central Time right now, and it's 83 and sunny
On a Friday afternoon on South Broadway.
Friday afternoon. I wonder what Broadway looks like right now, Pierre.
I gotta tell you, Legends and Tootsies are right next to one another. And then as you go down the Broadway a little bit, then you find Merchants and a couple other places. Believe me, if you're a fan, you can have a ton of fun before the game.
Yeah. Bill
It's
Karen
easy.
had a lot of fun at the draft last year, too.
It's not hard to have fun there. It's easy to have fun.
Yeah, hey, so if any Predators fans are listening as they're starting to get ready and have some fun on Broadway, pace yourselves. Do the old Rocky Mountain thing. You know, when you're in Colorado, they give you water for every drink. It helps. It works. Just telling you, professional experience here. Pace yourselves. You got a game ahead of you, but be loud. There you go. All right, Pierre. We look at that game. Look, by the way, too, I'm with you. If they can shut that line down, they're good. But also, Saros, he has the ability to steal one. He really does. And that's the one thing I like about Nashville in this game is he does have the ability, even if that line isn't completely on their game, Saros can steal one.
He can. I mean, that's not if you do the tail of the tape now without Thatcher Demko, Saros is the better goalie. I mean, the numbers speak for itself. And so that's something Vancouver's got to figure out. I don't know. Is Tyler Myers playing tonight or is he not playing?
I'm going to find that out for you right now, Pierre. Let's see. Bring it up from our good friends there, from the Preds. What do we got?
And I don't blame Casey.
Wait a minute. No, sorry.
I don't blame Casey DeSmith, Jimmy, for what happened in Game 2. Like Casey will be fine. He'll warm up as the series goes along, but his numbers are not as good, obviously, as UC Saros. Not even close.
For daily face-off, Myers did skate on the second pairing with Carson Soucy, so he looks.
Well, if he skated, then he's probably good to go. That makes a difference for Vancouver. That helps.
That the other day too. After that game, he said, "Yeah, I know we're missing Demko, but don't underestimate what missing Myers meant."
Well, I told you that right away.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean that's a big. People don't realize like Tyler's 6'6". He's a legit. Well, he's 6'7" actually. He's a legit 6'6", but he's closer to 6'7". That wingspan's huge. It's hard to get in playoff hockey. That matters.
Yep.
Really.
I feel like we're losing Pierre again. I don't know. I guess they're making the Frank Sinatra movie down the street from Pierre right now. They're using all the bandwidth. I'm going to have a conversation with the production crew there. Anyhow, one thing I want to say, he was bringing up Tyler Myers too, and I think it's worth saying that, I go back. I remember covering Tyler Myers when he's playing for the Buffalo Sabres against the Boston Bruins 2010 playoffs. It's a long time ago. We're talking 14 years, and he's still going. And he's really reinvented. He went to Winnipeg. Now he's in Vancouver. He's reinvented himself. He's done a great job of doing that. Pierre, I was just elaborating on what you were saying about Tyler Myers, and it just took me back. I had a little flashback. 2010, I'm covering him against the Buffalo Sabres when I covered the Bruins, that first-round series. He's been in the league for a long time, Pierre. He had to stop in Winnipeg there, and he's gone to Vancouver. He's really reinvented himself in Vancouver. Not reinvented, I guess reinvigorated would be the word. And found the fountain of youth, and he's become an instrumental part of that team.
That's fair to say. His real coming out party was 2009 World Junior in Ottawa. He was on that great team that was coached by the late, great Pat Quinn. Yep. So, that's when I really started to understand what Tyler Myers was all about as a player. But he's had an unbelievable – so back in those days, the Kelowna Rockets were the it team for defensemen. A guy like Luke Shen, a guy like Shea Weber, a guy like Tyler Myers, a guy like Josh Georges. Bruce Hamilton was the owner there, he still is. They did an amazing job. I remember Mark Habscheid when he coached there. I used to go in and run some practices there.
Yeah.
And Habby used to say, how good are some of these guys, Pierre, compared to NHLers? And Habby was a heck of a player. So I'd probably go in there once or twice a year to do practices. And I just remember seeing Shea Weber for the first time, like, oh, man, this guy's really good. This guy's really good. Then you see Luke Shen, and you're like, well, this guy's really good.
Yep.
Then you see Tyler Myers, and you're like, this guy's really good. But the most underrated guy was Josh Georges.
Yeah.
Josh was a really good player. He's coaching still in West Kelowna. He's not coaching the Rockets. He's coaching the West Kelowna Warriors. He's the CHL. He's a fantastic kid. Yeah. Anyways, long story short, Kelowna was the it team for developing NHL defensemen for a long time. They had another pretty good player there, too. You might remember his name, Duncan Keith.
Oh, yeah, that guy. Yeah.
One of the top 100 players of all time.
A factory, eh?
Dunk was there with Shea. They were there together. Yeah, it was unbelievable. You go into Kelowna in those days. When Gordon Miller and I would go out, we'd do Vancouver, Calgary, and Edmonton, and then we'd come back. And we'd always have an off day or two. And we'd go into Kelowna. We'd go in there, and it was fun. It was a ton of fun. It was great.
By the way, you know who Shea Weber is now on the roster for?
I think I do. Is it Arizona?
Well, Utah.
Oh, it's Utah.
He is now part of the Utah NHL team.
Good for you. You got me, Jimmy. From Arizona, Utah. That's good.
There you go, my friend. All right, let's go ahead to the next game there. The Oilers and the Kings. Pierre, I think we've been adamant about what we think Anze Kopitar and what he did, obviously, the other night, and Drew Doughty. What else needs to happen for the Kings to surprise, or should I say shock the hockey world tonight and take a 2-1 series lead?
Cam Talbot's going to have to stop 32 or more shots. Mm-hmm. And if he doesn't, let's just say Edmonton has 38 shots. He's going to have to stop, I think, 35 or 38. And if he doesn't, I think they're going to pepper him tonight. They're mad. Edmonton's mad. They're mad at themselves. Yeah. And usually when you have a team that's got that many star players like Edmonton has, and offensive star players, they want to run up a high shot total. And I think that's what they're going to do tonight. Doesn't mean it'll happen, but I see that being an issue. And if he doesn't make 32 or more saves in this game, obviously, depending on the amount of shots, I think it's going to be a problem.
All right. Well, let's get over right now on a Friday here. Let's get your Friday questions in from the comment section. Before we do, though, I just want to talk 1 second, though, about that. And that's an interesting thing you bring up there, Pierre. So I want to remind our listeners to go over and check out our sponsor, CBET. And you know what you can do over at CBET? You can bet on the shots on goal. How many you do an over-under. Usually they'll give you a number. So let's just say it's 30. I haven't checked it out yet. I apologize. But let's say it's 30. So based on what Pierre is saying there, you want to go over. So go over to CBET right now and make your first bet. And even if it doesn't go over 30 shots, you're still getting back $3,000 in Canadian to have some free plays for the rest of the playoffs there. So go over to CBET right now and use the code SICK, S-I-C-K, SICK, over at CBET. And then, of course, our other sponsors as well. TCS. Unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics. From around the corner to around the world, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting. TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces and delivering a peace of mind. For no obligation customs or freight quote, contact Sick Podcast at shiptcs.com. Sick Podcast at shiptcs.com. I got to say, Pierre, I travel lightly, living by myself for the last few years, so I don't have much to move. I'm moving tomorrow, by the way, up to Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Really excited. But if I did have a lot, I would be contacting our friends.
So I'm going to tell you right now, I have a house in storage in Ottawa right now, and I can assure you that TCS is going to be getting a call from me.
Well, there you go.
I have to move that house that's in storage. Right.
When you have something of that magnitude, they are the people you want to call, TCS Customs and Logistics, and tell them that the eye test, Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy sent you. Let's get to our questions here on a Friday. What do we got? Mike, what does Dallas need to do to counter Vegas's suffocating play style? That's a great way to describe it, Mike. 5 shots in the third period last game is not going to cut it. Absolutely not. Pierre?
We agree. So tempo is going to matter. Tyler Sagan's got to pick up the pace of that series. Wyatt Johnston's got to pick up the pace of that series. Matty Duchene's got to pick up the pace. I think Jamie Ben's played really well. He's not going to be a pace player for them. He's going to be a guy that's like Marchand, by the way. They're going to cause a lot of havoc off the forecheck and down low. But I think the pace has to open up for Dallas a lot more than what we've seen through the first 2 games. The one thing I'll say in defense of Dallas, they outshot Vegas 30-15 in game one. Like, they dominated game one.
Yep.
They just didn't score. They didn't take advantage of their opportunities. Game two, they weren't as good.
I'll say it, and we're a big fan of him, and we want him to break through. Jake Ottinger needs to be better. Yeah,
if he doesn't, I got it wrong, and I'll be the first person to tell you, because I've been expecting a lot more from
me too, Pierre. I'll own it with you. But he needs to be better. He needs to be better. All right, next question. David Robinson. What's up, Dave? Will one or two of the young D-men for the Bruins continue to take huge steps forward this postseason and become assets? He's speaking, of course, of Mason Lowry and Parker Wotherspoon. Pierre, I'll tell you right now, in terms of becoming assets, I don't think the Bruins are doing anything with Mason Lowry. I think he's a big part of their future. Parker Wotherspoon, I think he's become a useful depth guy. I think they're here to stay, both of them, and I agree. They really have found a place in this team. And the one thing I'll say about Lowry, too, that Lowry, I should say, I always pronounce his name wrong, I apologize. Lowry is that, as Jim Montgomery said the other day, Pierre, he's been very attentive to the defensive details of the game and really focusing on that. He knows that he's got tons of skill offensively. He knows what he is. He knows he can move the puck. But he's been very willing to learn, asking questions, wanting to get better in that end of the ice. And, I hear Ryan Mogino down in Providence talk about him all the time in that respect. So credit to him for taking that initiative as a young kid, because I know it's sexy to be an offensive defenseman right now, but he wants to do everything for the Bruins.
I think both guys are going to be assets for the Bruins long term. The fact that a real critical game 3, they took Matt Grzelcyk out of the lineup and put Mason Lowry in says a lot about what Donnie Sweeney thinks about him long term.
Exactly. All right, next question. Samuel Matei, did game 2 alter your outlook for Edmonton, LA like it did for me? With the last change for the next 2 games, they were able to get their matchups. He's speaking of LA, of course. Very interested to see the Oilers' response tonight. Well, we kind of just addressed that, but good point that they are going to get the matchups tonight, Pierre.
They get last change. I mean, Knobloch knows how to run a bench. I've watched them do it in junior. I watched them do it in the American Hockey League. He learned a lot from Dave Hackstall when he was an assistant in Philadelphia. I had the privilege of working with Paul Coffey when he was a player and I was coaching. He knows how to do what he needs to do on the back end. He'll understand that. So I don't think last change will matter as much tonight in LA. I think what'll matter is if they pick up the pace. I'm talking about Edmonton. If they play their tempo game, the matchup's going to cause no problem at all, I don't think, for that tempo. But we'll see. We'll see.
All right, next question. The Canadian, is there a chance Habs take a shot at signing Jake? Is this guy reading our mind? Pierre, what did I say to you today?
You did. Well, I was telling you, I think he's probably – I don't think Boston's going to sign him, because if they were going to sign him, it probably would have been done by now.
Oh, he's going to market.
So if he goes to market, I got to think the Alberta teams, Calgary and Edmonton, would have significant interest.
And he'll have interest.
I think there'll be more than that, but his dad lives out in Edmonton. His dad does a great job, Louis, doing the games on Sportsnet in Canada, and I would think that he'd like to go home at some point. He's a Western Canadian. He can say whatever he wants. He's a Western Canadian.
Yeah. No, he wants to go home, and his girlfriend's still there as well. It's interesting. She's never moved here. So I think he's been waiting to see what would happen, I think, with that contract to have her move. So he's going to market, and I'm with you, but that would be great theater for me as a writer, Pierce, if he signed.
Do about a week's worth of columns for it. It'd be pretty easy.
It would be great. Thank you. Please do it. All right, let's go. Next question. Mike, time for your early round 1 awards. Most impressive and disappointing player so far. I'm going to go in terms of disappointing with Jake Ottinger, and that's no knock on him. It's a compliment to him, actually, because I think he can be much better. Most impressive, man, there's so many to choose from right now. I'm going to – and I'm not a homer. Everybody knows that, but I'm going with Brad Marchand right now.
I'm going to say Jordan Martinook.
Okay, as most impressive?
Most impressive.
Okay.
Jordan's done he's been on a lot of big plays for Carolina.
He really has.
And I know
And he's a guy nobody talks about either.
I know it's not a marquee. That's why I'm doing it. It's too easy to pick the high flyers. I'm picking a guy that really gets in the mud and rolls around and does a lot of good stuff. And for the most disappointing right now, I'm just thinking. I'm trying to do all this series.
I got to tell you too, Pierre. Pierre hates doing that because he doesn't want to.
I don't like to do it. I'll say it right now. Pedersen in Vancouver has been the most disappointing right now. Yep. And if they're going to win on the road in Nashville, Pedersen's got to pick it up. And I can just tell you, Rick Tocchet will figure out a way to get something out of him, but he's got to pick it up. That's all I'm going to say.
Yep.
So
I love the way he answered those questions the other day, Pierre.
Yeah.
Was great with how he handled
gets it. There'll never be a slip up from Dickie. He understands what he has to do.
He knows how to do it. All right, next question. Jean-Pierre Draskinis. I hope I'm pronouncing that wrong. Will a Canadian team make the finals? If so, which one would you pick? Well, I got the Vancouver Canucks going to the finals. I don't know if it's going to happen, but that's who I have.
I do not have a Canadian team making the final this year.
All right. Next question. Bilal Aldamelak. All right. Hey, guys, beautiful weather question for both of you. Does Florida trade Montour? Well, he's a free agent, so are you saying the trade is rights? I don't know. Maybe.
No, they might, but I would say that he's going to market. No, he's going to market. I can tell you right now. He's going to market. That's a good question. They might trade his rights after they have a run, but we saw Kimo Tiemann have that happen to him when he got his rights were traded from Nashville to Philly, and Philly eventually signed him. But I don't.
And by the way, Bilal said too, I know the guys pulled it down there, but I love what he said. You got my last name right. It's like Abdelkader, the guy who played for the Wings. He was one of my favorite players of the Detroit Red Wings, a great role player. I'm glad you brought him up, Bilal. Thank you.
Justin Abdelkader, the great Michigan State Spartan. He was a tremendous college player, and he was a really good Detroit Red Wing. He really was.
Great playoff goals, I'll tell you that. All right, next question.
He did.
Jason Logan, what's up, Jay? What's your thoughts on Tristan Brose from Denver signing with the Pens? You think he can make the team right out of the gate? Pierre would know this better.
I think he's going to get every opportunity. Tristan's a scorer. He's a guy that knows how to finish plays off. I would say he's going to get every opportunity to play for the big team next year. I would say, they see what happens with Drew O'Connor there. I think Tristan Brose will actually go ahead of Sammy Poulin on the depth chart at some point here. So I would say he's going to have every opportunity. It's up to him whether he can stick or not.
All right. Next question. Alfonso Reda. Hi, Pierre. Big fan of yours. Just curious on your opinion on how Vancouver dealt with the contract negotiations with Pavel Bure back then. Do you think they would have won a cup if they kept him?
It's so hard.
Way back clock there.
No, I'm going to say this. People forget on the East in particular. I used to go in there. We used to play out west a lot in those days, more than what they do now. Used to have 2 trips out west every year. Now you just have 1. Vancouver was really good, Jimmy. When Bure was there and Trevor Linden was there, they were Kirk McLean was there, and Alfonso will remember this. They were really good. Bure was a human highlight reel, and I got that from Brian Burke. Brian Burke was nobody gives Brian enough credit for this, by the way. When Bure got drafted, everybody knew how good he was. It wasn't so he went in the 6th round. Everybody's like, "Oh, Vancouver," because Brian Burke went and did the digging in the weeds.
Just gonna
ask a loophole, and there was a loophole about how many games guys could play in an elite division overseas, and it was when 18-year-olds had to be drafted in the first 3 rounds. There were all kinds of different loopholes, and this was before I got in the league. It was a year before I got in the league.
Okay,
and all I'm going to tell you is, Pavel Bure, everybody knew how good he was. Do I think they could have done more and kept him? Probably, but I wasn't privileged enough to know what Vancouver's bottom line was. They weren't back then. They were playing in Old Pacific Coliseum.
Yep.
Way different revenue streams than what they have now downtown.
Yeah.
I coached in the old building, and I broadcast a ton of games. And I actually coached in the new building too, believe it or not, when I was with Ottawa. And I don't even know how many games I broadcast from there, including the Olympics. But the revenue streams at the new building are way different than the revenue streams. So I can't blame ownership or management on that. They're leaving.
You talk about Berkey being instrumental in getting it. Who do you know who went over there and found him?
They had a lot of guys.
Okay.
Mike Penny was their chief scout. So I would say Mike and Ronnie Delorme. Ronnie is a really good scout.
Yeah.
I don't know if Ronnie's still working or not, but Ronnie was a real good player and a really good scout. Mike was an outstanding scout. And I know Mike's still doing a lot to try to help scouts that are a little bit down on their luck. So
Nice.
Mike's a tremendous hockey guy, but I would say those two guys, but I don't know who they had on boots on the ground in Russia at the time for Vancouver. But that's why I brought up Mike and Ronnie. Those would be two guys that would know.
He was electric. And of course, people might remember the advent of video hockey, the Sega Genesis NHL '93 and '94, and you had Pavel Pierre.
Was pretty special.
Everyone wanted to be him, man. And I would always play Vancouver. I was always Vancouver.
Was good.
All right,
his brother Val was pretty good too.
Oh yeah,
a lot of Montreal fans watching. Val Bure was a real good player too. He really was.
For sure. And somebody mentioned here, Mikey J says Cliff Ronning, Jeff Courtnall. Those were the days.
They were a really good team. I mean,
yeah,
they had some tough guys there. They were tough. They were big. I mean, they had a lot going on.
Garth Butcher. Remember him? He was a piece of business. Yeah.
Hey, Dana Merzen was there too. Back when they were so good, Dana Merzen was there. They had a lot of big guys. Gino Ojic.
Oh,
great Gino Ojic.
Yeah.
Trust me. He was probably Bury's biggest protector.
Yep.
And he could bring it. Nobody wanted it because you didn't know what you were getting from Gino back in the day. Like he could go off the rails pretty quick.
Yep. That was him. All right, next question. Kukuk 69. Vasilevsky is not the same goalie he was a few years back, but still a great goalie. Yeah, Kukuk 69. You're one of my favorite question askers, but completely disagree. I don't put this in.
He's still I would take him on my team in a second. Yeah. This has nothing to do with goaltending.
It is where Tampa is right now. And
Father Time. Pay attention to all you have to do, Jimmy. And I'm not trying
cycle of life in the NHL.
It is. It's the hockey cycle of life.
Yep.
Look at all the players that are in different places.
Yeah,
they couldn't keep them all. They just can't. And if there's one owner, I can tell you this. Trust me. If there's one owner in the league that would have done everything in his power if they didn't have a salary cap to keep those guys, it would have been Mr. Vinnick.
They would have won 2 more cups, easy.
He would have done everything. He just the cap's in place, and the league needs the cap to keep growing the game. They do.
No, it's true.
They need the cap.
It's true. All right, next question. Big Bill, Pierre, what can you foresee will happen to the Leafs should they lose in the first round again? Core blow up, rebuild?
I don't think you need to rebuild core. I think that one forward would probably be moved.
One core forward.
One core forward will probably be moved. I can't predict what would happen to the coaches. I just don't know. I don't know the relationship with Sheldon Keefe and Brad.
What you mentioned yesterday with Pele is going to be
Keith Pele there. But I don't know the relationship with the GM and the coach. I don't know. So I would say that I don't see rebuild. No, I don't think that's necessary. I just don't think it's necessary. But I do think there'll be some changes.
Yeah. And I think there'll be an emphasis on defense as well. All right. Next question.
Better be.
Yeah. Would hope. Do you guys think home ice advantage is overrated? Every team is so good now that it just seems irrelevant. I think that's a great question and a great point, Pierre, and it's something I kind of waver back and forth on. If I had the choice, in a Game 7, I want home ice. But, I mean, there's been a lot of Stanley Cups awarded to the road team in Game 7s since the salary cap came in.
Both cups we won were on the road. We won in Minnesota and we in Bloomington, and we won in Chicago in the old stadium. Here's what I would say, and I mean this too. It used to be that home ice mattered because all the rinks were different. Mm-hmm. The level of the glass was different. The quality of the boards was different. The size of the ice sheet was different.
Yep.
There were a lot of different things. A lot of different things. That's not the same. Every rink in the NHL is 200 by 85. Every rink in the NHL has the same glass. It's height, the same glass height. Every rink in the league is virtually the same except for the quality of the ice, because depending on humidity and heat and the ice making capabilities of the professionals that work in these buildings. It all changes. But I would say home ice is a little bit overrated now compared to what it used to be. It used to be really important. It's not as important anymore.
Pierre just nailed it there. Totally. Once the arenas, as my old friend Russ Conway used to call them, once they became cookie cutter arenas, that kind of went out the door in my eyes. All right, next question. Ryan B. Why do you think Elias Pettersson has struggled to produce so far in this series? He's young. He's learning. People forget how young he is.
Hasn't had a lot of playoff experience.
Like, come on. I mean, I know we want instant gratification. I get it. And I know there's so much high-end skill coming into this league and young, and they hit it big, but playoffs is a whole different story, guys. It's a whole different story.
Yeah. I do think eventually he will snap to attention.
He's a stud.
We'll see whether that happens tonight. But again, it's not a lot of experience. If you don't have experience, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And people will say this all the time. Oh, come on. It's overrated, this playoff experience. Oh, no, it's not. Oh, no, it's not.
Really? Is that why you see fourth liners going for second round picks?
They didn't, you know how they have these shows now where people go in and they film behind the scenes and they show it to the fans? I think it's great. I wish we would have had that back in the day when I could see
I would have loved to see you, Pierre.
but I was just a small little part of it. But when you see Brian Trottier step up in a room, or Kevin Stevens step up in a room, or Mark Recchi, or Mario when it had to be, or Joey Mullen, or Larry Murphy, or Gordy Roberts, I'm just telling you, like, that makes a difference. And when one guy can challenge, 18 other serial overachievers, because everybody that plays in the league is an overachiever, even if they're a star. They're all crazy type A, overachieving type people. When one guy can challenge those people and get away with it, you'd be shocked at what it does to a team.
Pierre, look, and I think we'll both agree, and I'm not afraid to say it on the air either, and it's not a knock on him. It's just Father Time. Father Time's caught up to Pat Maroon a bit. It is what it is when he's on the ice. Sometimes he's just a little slower than the rest. However, what he brings in experience and leadership is invaluable. And I thought a perfect example of it, and I wish we could draw the soundbite right now. Maybe I'll get it up for us. We'll use it Monday. The other day, Brandon Carlo, I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, was asked about Brad Marchand's leadership. And he gave a quick answer. He said, I mean, what do you want me to say? It's pretty self-explanatory. I'm just paraphrasing here. He was basically saying, yeah, he's amazing. He is what he is. I mean, we all know that, right? And then he went right into complimenting Pat Maroon and went on and on and on and said, I cannot believe the enthusiasm, the energy he brings on our bench when we come back and you're running out of steam and you're looking for that second win or you're looking for that motivation. And he's just rallying us on the bench. And that, to me, says it all about what you just said there. That says it all.
What is the name of our show?
The eye test. There's
no analytic equation for what Patty Maroon brings.
I thought that was amazing by Brandon Carlo to bring up. And he made a point. It was completely unprompted, Pierre. He went out of his way to say that, and I loved it.
Okay, Jimmy, we got to get going, and we got 6 more questions, and I don't want to leave anybody on the lurch, so let's go.
Let's do it. All right, next question. Speaking about character, who gave the best locker room speech in your career?
Kevin Stevens.
There we go. Next question. Vincent Uriel, happy Friday, gentlemen. If you're a player and your contract is bought out, do you get all of that money? What does it look like for the player, and what's the cap situation look like for the team?
2/3. 2/3.
All right, next question. John Smith, I heard a Clayton Keller for Reinbacher, a first, and Evans rumor today. I think they should look into Dawson Mercer's availability. Your thoughts? I'm going to pass.
No, I'm not going to pass. Can you put that back up on the screen?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just need to see.
Can we get that back up, guys? Thanks.
So Clayton Keller for Reinbacher, a first, and Evans. I would not do a first because you're already trading a first in Reinbacher. Evans is a really useful player. I don't know internally right now if you have somebody that can replace Evans. He played more shorthanded minutes than any player in the NHL this year, and the Canes are going to need that. They don't have anybody that can do that. Would I take Clayton Keller? Yes. And one of the reasons why I take Clayton Keller, sense of familiarity for Jeff Gordon and also for Kent Hughes, BU guy. They know him inside out. But I would just say that seems like a steep price. That's all I'm going to say for that.
Yeah. And the only reason I passed you, I just didn't want to speculate too much.
No, we're not speculating. Like when that's
You're just analyzing what he said.
I'm going to analyze it, but I'm not saying that's happening. I'm just going to analyze how I see it. Yep.
But interesting for
Very
sure.
Interesting.
All right, next question. I hope I pronounce your name right. Stakar Ogord.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Stakar Ogord, beyond Manun's preseason game, do you see a woman ever playing NHL hockey? I do not.
I don't know. I don't know.
That's why they have their own league now.
I will never say never because I don't know. But I would tell you this. Marie-Philippe Poulet shoots the puck as well as any player I've ever seen. Now, is it as hard? No. But is a release point as good or better? The answer is yes, it is. Chrissy Wendell, to me, was one of the best playmakers I ever saw. She was unbelievable. I would just say that I've seen a lot of really special women play the game and play it really well. I would never discount anybody having an opportunity to play. Do I think it's likely in the next 5 years? I'd say no. I don't think so.
Okay.
But to ever say down the road, I could never say that. Could never say that.
Perfect. All right, next question. Mike, Tampa has done amazing things the last 5 to 7 years, but do you think Cooper's time there is coming to an end? I think that's a really good question, and I don't think it's a knock on Cooper at all. I just think it's the way it goes sometimes. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, Pierre.
The skill testing question is, who did John Cooper replace in Tampa?
Guy Boucher.
You knew.
Yep.
I knew you would know, partner. I knew you would know.
No.
That's a long time ago. John's been there a long time.
Long time. Things change.
By the way, done a magnificent job.
Magnificent job. And by the way, his team goes down 3-0. And what's one of the first things he does in the press conference last night? He talks about Bob Cole and goes on and on about the value he made to the contributions he made to the game and to him and what he meant to him. And I just pure class. That's what I love about you.
That's what you're supposed to do. And it's easy to talk about Bob just because he was so special. He really was. It's just this is what I tell you all the time, Jimmy, on and off the air. The mentorship thing matters. And we need more people to accept being mentored. Everybody thinks they're letter perfect and they don't need any help. And that is not good.
No.
It's not good. Mentor. And Bob Cole was a mentor to a lot of different people and a lot of different things.
Yep.
Saw Brad Gushu talking about a famous Canadian curler. Bob Cole made everybody in the Maritimes believe they could do anything.
Yeah.
That's mentorship because he walked in their shoes. He knew what they had to overcome to get to where they wanted to go.
Yeah. And I can tell you, for anyone getting into this business, sports media, what have you, or hockey media, you take as much advice as you can get and you learn from your mentors. That's what I'm lucky to have Pierre for. I was lucky to have Russ Conway. It's worth it. Trust me. Do it.
Well said. Good job.
Bilal again. How does Pierre always have the most aesthetic background? The second job could be a decorator for people's houses.
Okay. So, Bilal, I got to tell you this.
Same thing, actually, when we started the show.
I have a wife named Melanie Labonte McGuire, okay? We've been married for almost 25 years. She's like the associate producer of this show. I know we got all the guys in Montreal. If I go into a situation that looks bad, like you can't even imagine the cat fights we had before we come on the air.
Yeah.
Because she's a pro and I'm not.
Pierre, I can't wait till we do dinner together with Monica and Melanie and you and me, because she's going to love Monica. Because you'll see when I'm in my new place with Monica tomorrow, we're going to, I'll show you the aesthetics of Monica. Her and her mom in the same way. So
I would get I'd get so much poop, Jimmy. So I'd go on the road for enormous amounts of times in the playoffs. Sometimes I couldn't get home. Mm-hmm. So one time, Melanie actually flew from New York to San Jose to meet me to exchange suitcases. I'm not kidding you. And she said, okay, Pierre, you're wearing this tie with this suit and this shirt. And she had it all orchestrated and set up. And then she flew home. So I'm just showing you, like, when you have somebody that's like that, a partner like that, it matters. It's good.
Yeah, for sure.
To Bilal's point, all this stuff. She orchestrated this today. She goes, the lighting where you want to do it's not good enough. So, hey, I'm listening. It's all right.
She's good. You're a smart man to listen, my man. All right. What do we got? Any more?
One more.
Bilal again. I'm taking a scouting course online and Mike Oak is running it. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Any tips for me? I think I'm really knowledgeable when it comes to hockey, but I just need some tips.
So, no, smart.
Great
So
question.
you have to decide when you scout, are you a guy that looks for skill? Do you look for speed? Do you look for character? Do you look for grit? What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of a player that can help your organization? And then just focus in and build off that as you go along. Take copious notes, but when you're at a game, don't do your notes until a TV timeout or until the end of a period. Because I'll tell you right now, a lot of guys miss action when they're writing their notes or cranking away on a computer. So really important. Those are my tips for you. But find out what kind of scout, like, what do you like? So when I go to a game, I like guys that can play all over the ice, 200-foot players. I like defensemen that don't turn the puck over. I like defensemen that clear the crease really well. The way I watch a game is not fun. It's just I don't watch the puck a lot. I watch away from the puck.
Yep.
So everybody's got their own way of how they do it. But I like guys that play really well for 200 feet everywhere.
Yep.
That's what I try to focus on. To find the skill guys isn't that hard. Like the skill, anybody can talk about they stand out.
Yeah, they're going to just come through themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
And one other thing I'd say too, Pierre, and I remember, and I don't know if you knew this, I did a little scouting way back in the day for the Montreal Juniors for a summer.
That's what happened. That's why they moved. No, I'm just
no, well said.
I'm just kidding, Jimmy.
I'll tell you, it was a great experience. I mean, it really helped. It opened my eyes to look at the game different as a writer too. But one thing that I always tried to do, right, was find the scouts in the building, in the rink that I'm in, and just sit next to them and pick their brain. Don't be afraid to go up to people. You see the same faces all the time in the rinks, go up to them. I do the same thing even when I'm just writing a game and I'm covering a game. Go up in the intermissions, ask questions. Don't be afraid to introduce yourself. Get out there and make it known what you're trying to do. That's the advice I'd give.
That's smart. By the way, that Montreal junior team, they moved to Blainville-Boisbriand. Yeah, so they've done some really good things.
You know who played for them too back in the day, and we compliment him a lot here? Jake Allen.
Jake Allen, but I know Drake Batherson played for for Blainville-Boisbriand too.
That's right. Yep.
So,
and a shout out to our friend Carl Miller while we're talking about it. So
there's a lot of good stuff going on around hockey. By the way, I was talking with Scout today. I will not tell you the team he works for. We had a questioner yesterday asking about Oshawa, what's going on. He's heading into Oshawa tonight. He said,
that's
this is one of the questions from yesterday.
Yeah, that's great.
Cool. Good. They're playing really well. The team to beat, though, in the Ontario Hockey League right now, and I brought it up yesterday to you, is London.
Okay.
London's really playing well right now. Really, really playing well.
Am I mistaken? Forgive me for not knowing, but did Saginaw advance?
I don't know.
They lose no matter what, but
I got to look that up, but I know that London is playing unbelievably well, and I know that just for that questioner yesterday, I asked the scout, and he said, I'm actually driving in Oshawa right now, so it was pretty good.
A certain number 4 played for that team, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there was another guy, 288, that wasn't bad.
All right. Listen, thank you to all of you for your questions here. Thanks to our production crew. And thank you to you, Pierre. Enjoy Hoboken and tell us how that movie looks. We're going to blame them for the bandwidth issues. And then we'll go from there. But hey, Pierre, thanks. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Don't forget. You're forgetting who our guest is on Monday.
Oh, that's right. Thank you for reminding me. Sean McKenzie of Sportsnet will be joining us here on the Eye Test on Monday. So looking forward to that to wrap up the weekend of hockey and look ahead. Sean McKenzie of Sportsnet here on the Eye Test. He's Pierre McGuire. I'm Jimmy Murphy. We will talk to you on Monday.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind.